cause everything around me green. Get the money, dollar bill, yo.
Another note on here is to check out the Founders Update, which I actually wrote. Okay. It is on crowfall.com. We do this usually, it's either a video or we'll write it up, but it's kind of a look back at the year, what happened over the course of the last year, where are we now, and what's coming in the near future. Yep. This one was cool to write because I actually, when I did I went through and I kind of chronicled all the things that we've actually gotten accomplished in the game. And I went back and compared it to the original Crowfall video from Kickstarter. And it was actually really cool being able to do a catalog and just look at all the check boxes, right? I mean, we've been doing this a long time. It's taken us longer than we would have liked, for sure. But the good side of that is we actually have checked most of the boxes of the things that we originally set out to do, which is really cool. We're clearly not done yet. I said that in the write-up. If we were, we'd be launched. But it's very, very clear that we are nearing the end of the list of things that we need to be able to call this thing beta and start inviting in the 330, I think, thousand registered players. And then once we do that, we'll go live.
And that is super exciting.
Very, very cool.
I mean, we've done this back since year one, right? We had the kind of December roundup of all the stuff that we've been building. And it's interesting to see in the last year how we're kind of, this next milestone feels more game-like than any time that we have.
This next one has it has some major tent poles in it, and I actually went through those as well, and I probably even forgot a few, right? Things like Frostweaver and the UI fixes that are awesome. They didn't even really make the cut. Like, they barely got a mention,
right?
Because it's got the alternate win conditions coming, which is really cool. It's got guild versus guild support, which is huge, right? A lot of people have been waiting on that since we first announced. It's got cosmetic seasons. So now when you log in, fall looks like fall, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I see these little pretty plants everywhere now.
It's surprisingly impactful. Like, spring looks bright and cheerful, and winter looks dreary and horrible. But it gives you an emotional response, which is really cool. And I'm forgetting, city building, right? That's huge. That's like your entire team right now seems like, except for Hallish, is basically swamped by city building. So anyway, there's a lot of really cool stuff coming, and that is coming very, very soon in 2020. So it's going to be a big year for us. I think that I also mentioned in the letter that it's kind of hard to keep unless you watch. There's us and there's other Kickstarted MMOs out there, and we're all kind of in various states of playability and testing, and we're not even consistent project to project on, is it out there? It's early alpha, it's pre-alpha, it's beta 3, it's we all use different terms. So it's kind of hard to keep up with, but I think 2020 you're going to start to see us rise above the noise, which is really cool, because enough of the game will be there, and we'll move to polishing and trying to get the bugs fixed so that it can actually go out. And I think that'll feel a lot different than a game that's in development.
And the difference between a real live product when you have all of your systems built, and at that point it's more design iteration and tweaking the systems.
Absolutely. Is
a lot easier because we can come up with an idea and we can explore it without needing to invest weeks and months of tech.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, so it's a lot cooler.
There's a lot of things that are happening kind of under the surface, like a duck, right? Its feet moving rapidly under the surface. A lot of things under the surface on the tech side that don't also get surfaced to you guys. Like, there's a tremendous amount of rework going on right now in the power system. Yep. Now that we have all the pieces in, it was time to go back and say, okay, everything is all the functionality we need is in. Let's go back and clean this thing up and improve performance.
Let's harden
and make it to where we can maintain it for the next 10 years. Right? Knock on wood. Hopefully, that's what we're all hoping. So, okay, moving into the Q&A questions. Okay. Most of them, I believe, actually are kind of balance related, which makes sense because I really haven't. I've held back on announcing the details of all the stuff that's coming in 110. We will be doing that, but we can jump into these questions. That means that you will be answering more of them than I will. So I will do the asking.
Okay.
So this was a question about racial bonuses in 5.110. You know what? There actually is a big racial bonus passives change happening, right?
Yeah, did you see my daily from over the holiday break? That was my holiday break. I redid all of the racial disciplines, and they all got their own special things, which is really great. I had a lot of fun doing it. And it basically came from the fundamental change where we used to only have one passive per race.
Right.
It was called their Bloodline passive. And that was because our system used to be you would load out passives and you only had 3 slots.
Yeah.
So we couldn't overload you with passives. But we said, you know what? We're not going to do this. We're just going to give players unlimited passives. You don't need to load them out. So now I can give you 12 passives if I want
for
to,
sure.
right? And so what ended up happening is all of the races got between 4 and 5 passives, 1 to 2 active powers, and a dodge power. So that's where they all ended up. They're all very thematic, which is fun because we get to come up with funny, quirky names, and they do cool things. So in this case, the half-elf is no longer the stepchild. And
Yeah,
same
so
with the
the
Stoneborn.
question, I didn't read that part, but the question specifically talks about half-elf and stoneborn, which is our stone dwarves.
Yep.
Is what you do with those guys to make them, basically to beef them up, to make them more playable.
Yep, and the half-elves got a passive where they, every time they get crowd controlled, they get a heal over time, a short duration heal over time.
Oh, that's
Which
interesting.
means that they've become hey, do we really want to chain knock down a half-elf or stun them or whatever?
Yeah.
They also got an activatable with a short duration barrier buff, which is great to their kit. So I was thinking about these races, how they fit into particular classes. So I tried to strengthen it and make it such that, for example, we have a bunch of races that can be assassins. And we now have one that's the fast one. We have one that's the mobile one. The one that you don't want to CC. The one that does a little more damage.
Yeah, cool.
So you have the choice on when you hey, I want to be this race because they do this. Right? So a lot of that went in. And the Stoneborn one is something I wanted to say because I did a lot of these. His particular passive, what was it? It was every time he gets poisoned, I believe. It strips the poison.
I don't know. I haven't played them yet.
It's one of them. But yeah, you guys will see it. You'll be like, oh, great, these are awesome. And now we can debate on which ones are good and which ones are bad.
And then we'll make a bunch of changes, I'm sure, as a result of that, too.
But the big pass was done, so everyone should be happy about that, and we've got new things to play with.
Okay. The next question is, again, it's very specific, so I'll go ahead and give you the question, but then I'll take it to the higher level, which is we have 4 kinds of ballistas, only 1 is used. Are you going to redesign those? So let me just open this up to what's the deal overall with siege weapons?
The siege weapons, as they exist in their current form, are still back from Siege Perilous days.
Right.
And they really never have had a good, let's take another pass at these things, right? Because again, we always learn something when we build a system for the first time.
Right, for sure.
And then we have to go back.
A lot of times you learn whether it's fun or not.
Right.
That's kind of a big deal.
And or do we just keep the thing or remove it, right? A lot of times we have ideas, and I think you've said in the past before, if you get 50% of those ideas, you feel great.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true. And actually, we've been kind of slow sometimes about pulling ones that just didn't really work.
Sometimes we like to hang on to them, just one more thing, it'll make it work. So in this case, the siege weapons have never really received the big pass.
Yeah, so I in general, we need to take a pass over sieging, but the city building stuff that's coming on right now is still, as it's getting, literally internally, we're still bringing the pieces online.
Yep.
I want to at least have a chance to play through that and have the results of that playthrough influence the rebalance and the changes we're going to make to the siege system. But we do know that that's an area that we need to look at.
And there is a building, the Siege Workshop, that gives you better siege equipment. We intend to make Mark 1 through 4s of everything.
Yep.
And of course, more damage, more health, and a couple more powers.
There's a whole host of things related to city building that I have not shared yet. So so there you go. There's a hint at the kinds of things you're going to be seeing in this next one. So. Okay, the next one is actually about city building. Is there a cap on the number of ranked or city assets a guild can develop, or will it be open-ended? So there is and there isn't. And let me explain how I can give you both of those answers at the same time and have them both be true. There is a cap on city building in a single location. We're forcing you to make some choices between the different buildings and defenses and spires and things that you want to build. However, right now at least, a single team or guild can own multiple locations.
Right.
So that means that's why I said it is and it isn't. And in a single location, it is capped, but if you actually start to take multiple locations, then that opens up the opportunity for you to actually build all the things.
Correct.
So this is one that we're going to have to play with for sure. In Shadowbane, we actually did enforce some rules. We decided to make it part of subguilding. It was like, well, let's specifically let them do it. However, they have to have the other cities assigned to a subguild.
Right.
And that was partially because we wanted to engineer the trees to be very fragile. We wanted it, if you were my subguild, I wanted you to be, as a designer, to be enticed to screw me over at any given moment and take that away. Like, I wanted to give you all the things you needed that you could just make a decision and instantly now you were your own kingdom. So, right now it is open-ended. I'm not going to go so far as to say that I know that's exactly where it'll be at launch. We're going to have to look at all this. With this stuff coming online for the first time, that we're going to have to be pretty quick to adapt because this is the area we're going to have to innovate in the next over the next couple months as we go into beta.
But our goal was that there is some hard choices.
Yes, I do want some hard choices for sure.
Right.
And we tried to arrange, we tried to specifically make it to where it becomes harder and harder for a smaller team to hold multiple locations. We do want that because it makes the game less fun for everyone else if one team of 5 people can literally control every stronghold in the game.
Yeah, we don't want that. So in a lot of cases, some of this stuff we're just setting up in preparation for future stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Future content becomes easier. For example, we don't have, currently, we don't have leather or tree motherlode nodes.
Right.
However, I just did all the systems work in this milestone to make that possible.
Right, cool.
So as soon as we have the content time to build it, there's no waiting.
Yep.
Right. So a lot of the stuff is in preparation for future content.
Yeah. And speaking of which, Caravans. That's one I failed to mention a few minutes ago, but it's actually another major pillar of this one. I actually have seen that one working. That's already up and running internally. So, which is pretty cool. Okay, next question is about the removal of some of the minor disciplines in 1.100.
Yes.
Right, some of the disciplines went away. Are they going to be coming back? Are they going to be added to majors? I kind of really would like us to take I know you've done some spot fixes like this stuff, but I would like us to make a pass in general over the disciplines.
Yeah, we definitely need a big major and minor pass, but this specifically was some of the things that Mark and I had experimented on in the past, which is, hey, it's really cool to have an extra ring or an extra neck slot. But what we found is it kind of dilutes the coolness of the race. So you take a Ganetian and you get an extra ring.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one of their things.
Right.
They're the high elf with the extra neck. And by making it so that it was a thing that anybody could buy, it kind of homogenized that, and it became, what's the best way to create a neutral character that can buy all the cool racial things.
This is an interesting line to walk, right? We want to have a lot. You want to have enough optionality that a given player can choose to be a particular race and class and yet feel totally different than someone else who chose the same race and class. However, you don't want so much optionality that every character basically can do everything, and race classes specifically race. I mean, class obviously will have a big impact, but you don't want it to be basically a non-choice. At least we don't. Other games tend to go in that direction where they try to make it purely a cosmetic choice. I don't like that. I like the races to actually feel impactful, like an impactful decision.
I mean, because then we can have a debate. I'm like, I want to take the half elf, and you're like, but if you take the human, you get the extra minor discipline.
Yeah, you guys know that D&D 5th edition is a big, it's one of my favorites. Like, I'm really, I bring it up probably every time. But that's something that I've noticed that they've done very, very well, is there are some things that you can cross over with feats that actually allow you to kind of dip a little bit into other classes or other racials. But generally speaking, those are impactful choices. Like, if you decide you're going to be a Firbolg, that feels very different than if you decide you're going to be a Wood Elf.
Right. So ideally with the racial, the pass that was done, they should feel really unique, and they have their unique thing, and they create these unique argument points where it's like, well, yeah, I want to take this one because I want the extra minor discipline.
Yeah, so the thing I feel like we do need to do, though, in terms of the pass is I want to go through and make sure that the ones that we are giving you are impactful enough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I feel like on our majors and minors is there's a fair number of them. Like, archery is obviously really cool.
Yeah.
Fundamentally different, right, if I take archery. There's a fair number of them, though, I'm like, well, that's kind of nice, but it doesn't fundamentally change my character. So I'd like to take a look at going back and trying to beef some of those up. So...
Okay, so what do we got next?
All right, next one is about Caravan systems. And actually, it says with Caravans, it is vaguely connected to Caravans.
Yeah.
It's actually about refineries, right? We've talked about refineries for a long time. This goes back, forever. It was kind of gated. In fact, at one point we put them in as just a chest in the quarry that you could go and it would pop stone, and you could then take it and use it. Now that the Caravan system is in, it's tied into Caravans.
Correct.
It gives you an alternate thing to do. And so if I go and get if I go get a block of stone, I can take it back for city building, or I can take it to a refinery, and I can break it into a bunch of raw resources I can then use for crafting. So the question here is basically like, all right, well, hey, thanks for giving us that. However, now that you did, why would I ever do crafting?
Or why would I ever use the harvesting?
Or harvesting, sorry. Why would I ever do harvesting?
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing is you can have the two parallel systems, right? And one of them, I mean, different times of the day, different spawn rates. One may be better for bigger groups, one may be better for smaller groups. Hey, I want to solo. It's more easier for me to harvest because if I go near the POI where the caravan animals spawn, I'm just going to get.
Well, the caravan system, to be clear, is largely actually a PvP activity.
It is.
Like that's what we expect it to do, is to create hotspots of activity, because then it opens up ambushing, it opens up camping. It's effectively kind of an escort quest, except it's an escort quest where other people are coming and trying to take and kill your escort. The thing that you're escorting.
So when I looked at the map last night that Edson had generated with 6 strongholds in it, and looked at where the POIs were, you could very clearly see where all the hotspots were and which keeps were more and forts were more beneficial because they were closer to a particular POI.
Absolutely.
So it completely changed.
And the
game.
roads are going to now be important too,
Yeah.
which they weren't before. They were purely cosmetic.
Correct.
They gave you a little directionality, but
now that will have a function.
So this is a balance, right? If we make it to where this is just clearly the best way to get these resources, then you're right. We could totally undercut harvesting, and we need to make sure that we don't do that, because that was not the goal. The goal was not, hey, let's basically put this new thing in that obsoletes an existing system.
Sure.
Though we did also in this build push out the harvesting minigame stuff to dedicated harvesters, right? We pushed that further down. The pip game.
Oh yeah,
based harvesting.
The pip game is no longer a universal thing. That's something you have to train in the skill tree.
Right.
It's in fact the mastery box for exploration. But the other thing here is it creates this interesting moment when you turn in a caravan. If you happen to have the plentiful haul skill and you can get access to purple quality materials, you can be like, well, do I really want to put this into a wall or a building, or do I want to turn it into a new set of armor?
Right.
Right. So it creates that interesting choice. And the tension we're trying to create is you never have enough materials to fully build the city.
Right.
Right. So you're constantly going out and doing the caravan missions to either repair something that got destroyed in a siege,
big chunk of the reason for caravans is we want to get people not to turtle up. We want to get them out into the world, because that's where the interesting things happen.
And you know where to go. Like,
yeah, for sure.
People are going to be coming here to get these things.
Yeah.
So
for a while there was we were putting in going to put in a notification when the caravan stuff spawned to let you know. We actually are not doing that right now because we were afraid that it would basically hamper our ability to spawn them, because you don't want notifications like that hitting constantly. It gets super spammy. So we're going to try it without first and see if we feel like we need it. We can always go back and add it back in, but right now we just decided, nah, let's not bother. We think that they'll be hot-spotty enough. So.
And the good news is the caravans can go across the rune gates now.
That's true too. I saw that as well.
So that's going to create some interesting. Where we place the POIs is going to create some interesting things. But that's all coming up in the balance where we determine what goes into making a building and what you need to actually get to make that building.
Which you guys have not done yet.
We have not done it yet.
Not balanced that yet.
No, we're waiting for the worlds to kind of settle and the dust settle there, and then we're going to start working on the numbers for those other things.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, next question is, why did you remove the ability to cancel combo for whirlwind powers?
For whirlwind powers.
Okay.
So let's explain this. So the way the combo system works in Crowfall is when you mash a button, it advances you to a combo stage.
Okay.
And if you happen to be doing it on the same, if the combo is on the same button, the challenge is most people will mash the button. In the heart of PvP, you're just doing that, right?
Okay.
You don't press once.
Not
wait for
the good players, but sure. Players like you, yeah.
Whatever. But this is where the problem happened: is the cancel combo was popping instantly as the next combo to get out of there, and they were actually their ability was stopping because they didn't realize they were starting the power and instantly canceling it.
Oh, okay.
Right. And the challenge that creates is we get a lot of QA bugs and we get a lot of player feedback that this power isn't working. So we spend a bunch of time.
Yeah.
And we're trying to reproduce the steps. And what we find is like, oh no, they were just mashing the button fast.
Yeah.
So as part of 5.100, we put in a lot of alternate ways to cancel combos, which is you can jump, you can use a flash cast like a dodge to get out of something, like if you're whirlwinding, right? So we have ways to do it. The more advanced players who are really superstars don't like that because they weren't the ones that was doing that. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So for us to put that back in there, what we're going to end up having to do is create some UI options that say, hey, I want to use these cancel combos.
Okay.
So that's just a thing that
makes sense.
we just don't have right now. It's in the backlog. Yeah, we want it because, hey, it creates more tight, skillful play for those players that want to engage in it. But for the general populace, they don't be like, hey, my ability's broken, and I didn't realize what I was doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it is a UI thing, and definitely we'll get to it when we have some time. Because I was tired of the bugs.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the next one is a question about the discipline system, asking, did you guys do a major redesign in 5.1.10? That's a lot of word salad there. The question is, how much work did you do on disciplines in 5.1.10? The answer is actually not a lot, I don't believe, right? We have so much stuff coming online between caravans and city building and the alternate strategies to win and all that kind of stuff that going back and doing a complete redesign of disciplines was not in the cards.
There is
that? Not in the cards?
Not in the cards?
Not in the cards? Good, right.
There's enough change going on from the systems level with all of the...
Yeah, it was a bridge too far.
There's just so many things going on. I kind of want to let the dust settle in 5.1.10 before we start working in the beta stuff to balance a lot of these disciplines. However, we did get rid of the contentious ones like Elementalist, Militant Mage, Mudman, and Scarecrow, which was kind of we're not going to be putting a lot of these immunities in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So it was basically rifle shots that
you
took, as opposed to napalming the entire area.
Right. So it got rid of some of the more contentious ones in 5.1.10, which again, combined with everything, the overall meta is going to change a lot.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's just kind of inevitable. In fact, my guess is they're ready for it to change at this point because it hasn't. We haven't been making as many changes lately. So, okay. So I think that's actually it for our pre-canned questions.
Yep.
I have questions
so
from
you want
studio
to
audience?
take questions from the live studio audience.
Yanni wants to know about crafting passives. Will crafting passives be modified for races?
Will crafting passives be modified for
This was a tough one, right? So do you give elves, for example, a bonus to crafting experiment points when they're working on bows, right?
In
like
fact,
that kind of stuff.
It's called High Shaper, I think, or High Shaper of Wood. They actually do get a passive, a racial passive, that gives them 10 points in assembly and experimentation of woodworking.
Okay, so I guess yes is the answer. You did do some of it.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, right? This is it goes back to that thing I was talking about earlier of we want them to feel unique, but I also don't want them to feel so unique that it's like, well, this is if you want to be a blacksmith, you got to be a dwarf, right? Like that. That's the line that we have to walk there.
None of the bonuses that we gave in that aspect, like for crafting, for example, are things that can't be overcome with gear or other ways.
That's the other idea, right, is you have things that are capped. So if you have a general stat, right, that goes from 1 to 5, let's say, and there's multiple ways to get it to 5, then that basically sidesteps the problem I just talked about. It's not like, hey, if you want to get up to 5 you only can do it by being a dwarf.
Right.
Instead, it's like, well, if you are a dwarf, you get a +1. But if you aren't, you can still get there. You just have to do this or
you start at 2 instead of 1.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
And it gives them flavor. And in fact, the Stoneborn got Apprentice of the High Forge, which happens to be blacksmithing.
There we go.
10 and 10. In the current system we have on live right now, we had just shotgunned out like, hey, everybody gets some crafting stats. And you get 2, like everybody got 2, and we've done away with that. That it's actually, it will be a special thing for the races that actually get it in 5.1.10.
Teacher Man 33 wants to know if disciplines will add mini talent trees to spend points in.
That's what I want.
So that's what we want.
But I don't know if we're going to get that in or not by launch. We'll see.
Right.
We even stubbed it out. Like in the UI, you can see where that is supposed to go.
Yeah, there's little
There's
places
a spot.
click on
Yeah,
it.
there's a spot for
and in
to
fact,
go there.
the data is all set up on the design side. We already built the little mini 5-point trees. What you are going to see with the talent trees in relation to that is the major disciplines cost 5 points now. So we are simulating the fact that it is a 5-point thing that you're buying.
Okay.
There is enough stats and powers, and now that everyone gets all the passives activated that come from a major discipline, it's going to cost you 5 talent points. So one of the things that Susie got in early in the milestone is the ability for us to create variable cost nodes.
Okay.
So the exploration disciplines, for example, are 0-point nodes now.
Okay.
So they're in the tree, they're along the path, they just cost 0.
Yeah. Great.
So conversely, the major disciplines cost 5. Now the idea there was, is a major discipline worth 5 talent points that you're like, all right, I only want one major. I can
Or
spend
I only
those.
want this thing out of that major. Like I don't want all of the pieces that are inside.
That would be
right?
if we got the talent tree.
That's where we want to get to eventually.
Right. But right
in the
now it's going to be,
meantime-
hey, I have 5 points and I can spend them other places in the talent trees.
Okay.
Because again, we tightened up things a little. There was a pass made on the talent trees in 5.1.10. It was more shifting things around and trying to make it so currently on live you can buy 90% of a tree. Right, you can buy your entire promotion class, and that middle, the tier 2 block that we call it, you could buy most of that. That's not a thing anymore. You're going to actually have to pick a path up there or pieces of a path.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a lot more thought process going into.
And actually, that again, I reference it a lot. Shadowbane did that as well, right? Is you got skill, you got additional things you could invest in by getting disciplines, but you did not get additional skill points to spend. So by doing it, you were basically going wider in your what you can do, but you were going shallower in the specific things for my class. I like that. I think that's still a cool design point. So do that. That sounds good. Let's
Already
do that
done.
Again. All right, perfect. Love it.
Done.
Okay, Captain Stabbin, and I feel like I know
We
I
have
love
great
it.
names this time. You guys
Sometimes
are rocking
I like
it this
to
time.
Just stand in the temple and watch the names go by
Mm-hmm.
because there are some great names. Captain Stabbin wants to know, and I feel like we've answered this before, but if people are still asking, that means that they're
Yeah.
not
No.
getting-
Bring the questions, Val.
Okay.
I'm not afraid.
Will the worldwide all access to the Spirit Bank go away when 5.1.10 launches?
We have an answer to that I'm not ready to give yet, right? Because it's actually tied into something else that's coming online.
Kind of curious.
All right, well, I don't want to
Who's
answer
put
that
it
one
on
yet.
here?
So I said I'm not afraid, but I actually am afraid that I don't want to actually say that one yet. Especially now if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
'Cause I thought we were settled on that, but
I've clearly made a power that does something like that.
yes, and so it is, there are changes coming in that area. How's that?
I want a Roomba pet, so when I'm harvesting, it just goes around and picks up my stuff, and I don't have to.
That actually has been requested many times
Yeah.
as a what do you guys had it on DC, right?
Yeah,
A
we had the-
button
you would,
that you could hit and it would vacuum
Right.
everything in the
Right.
area up. I actually would like that, frankly, because either that or please make the dupers not pop behind my
me?
character. It just drives me
Yeah,
crazy.
the engineering just gets a 360 and they just spew.
That's the kind of polish thing
Yes.
that we absolutely need to get to before we launch. We just haven't had a chance. It's
It
like
just makes me wonder what their houses look like. Like, do they have like socks and shoes and stuff just thrown around, all willy nilly?
who's that? Our engineers?
Yes.
Oh, I don't think that. I think they just got it done and moved on to the next task on
Right.
the plate. Would be my.
They're like, oh, they asked for a way to spew things out. They didn't ask
You
for
go, and then
directionality
move on,
to it.
right? And we should have
Well,
been more specific, or we should have allocated more time for them to polish it. Then.
Because then at that point they need to get what direction the character is facing,
Yeah,
so they
exactly.
know where to throw the things. Like it is more complicated, but that's again, as Todd pointed out, that's a couple lines that we can add on top of an existing thing in a polish phase.
That's
rather than
exactly
having
the
to
kind
build.
of thing that we'll get back to with polish.
That was me,
polish
by the
phase.
way. It was wonderful. Are we going to be able to test some stuff ahead of the Dregs patch full releases?
I don't
Maybe as a
know.
nice
So
holiday gift.
no, well, so this actually came up yesterday because my original intent was to roll things out as they got done, but the team has been moving at a clip that's pretty solid, and so things that I would have normally said I want to roll that out and test, like guilds as factions, right? I wanted to get the guild support out first, has been mixed in with other things that are not ready to be rolled out yet. So I don't know is the answer. I think that we will likely not, would be my guess. Because I just what I want to do ultimately is get this out to you guys in a polished state. That has to be the priority. And so if I'm going to do whatever is the most optimal. Before the conversation we had yesterday, I had made an assumption that the most optimal thing would be to drop them on test server as they were ready. As of yesterday, the update I got, that is not the case, so I'm not going to do it. So I know that's probably not what you want to hear because everybody wants to play it right now, but you'll thank me later when the thing is done quicker than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Yumix wants to know, if Elementalist gets removed, will the Confessor gain the firewall power?
Maybe.
Our Confessor's underpowered
right.
now.
I mean, again, Mark and I don't make a habit of deleting powers.
Yeah.
So we can always kind of pull them back off the shelf. In a lot of cases.
Oh, I mean, if nothing else, it'll be, hey, here's a particular monster or creature,
Right.
and we're going to put it on there, right? Just because
we tend to reuse every part of the buffalo that we can, right? That's kind of a we spent days building it and or QAing it. We want to get full use out of it, so it may resurface in another way. I don't know specifically where it would go now, but it might come back in.
Scree asked, and I can answer this one, if we got to meet anybody from Silicon Valley.
No, all of that was done remotely.
It was done remotely.
None of them came in.
Debbie Sue worked her behind off, she and Emily both, to make that happen. So
they also didn't really,
deal
like,
to
at the
them.
end of the day, like they did a pretty good job of not letting it impact the rest of the development organization. Like they specifically went to, like Dave and said, hey, we need this piece of art. But otherwise it really had very little
and we had
impact.
a lot of players that came in and helped with some video capture.
Yeah, so for anybody who doesn't know,
Yeah.
the Silicon Valley, the HBO TV show, had a fake game as part of the plot called the Gates of Glue, right? And they needed footage from a game, and evidently somebody over there was a fan, and so they called and said, hey, can we use footage of Crowfall for this game? And Debbie Sue brought it up and said, what do you think? And I said, I think the show is funny, so sure, like just let them do it. It doesn't bother me. So that at the beginning of this season, actually, it starts with a clip of Crowfall, and you can tell because it's our Ganeshan and our Centaur next to like a Domino's pizza, which is kind of odd, but that's the whole joke. So anyway, that's where that came from. But that one was done remote. Actually, that was all done remote.
That's my favorite kind of marketing ask. Design didn't have to build anything,
Right.
create any new things, no new powers. It was just like
Yeah,
I was like,
Blair
wow,
likes to
that's.
just kick back and reap the benefits.
Yeah.
I was
that's
like,
right.
wow, that's great. That's a
Other
great
people's
marketing
hard
effort.
work.
I think it's actually really cool. I think that was a really fun show. It's coming to an end. I think I find it very cool that in our own little way we were able to be a part of it. I think that's really
Sure,
neat.
because they
So-
could have picked any game. Right?
Yeah, for sure,
And
absolutely.
they picked us.
So, pretty cool.
There are a lot of Dregs questions, which I'm just going to presume, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we're not answering.
Yeah. No, I'm holding off. I wanna talk about it all at once. Is the thing is that I want to
Yeah.
talk about it piecemeal. Because if I talk about it piecemeal, frankly, I'm going to get flooded with people picking apart those individual pieces without knowing the entirety of the thing. I'd rather wait until everybody knows the entirety of the thing, and then you can tell me why you think I made all the wrong calls. I'm used to. I'm okay with that.
If
But
I
at
know
least,
mention it, they think I'm ignoring
I would
them,
rather
so
it
yes,
be.
I
I would rather it be picking on the system as it actually is designed, not picking on the system as you assume it's designed because I haven't actually explained it yet. So we will get there, and we just haven't done it yet.
And understand again, I pointed this out in the past a lot, which is you guys are operating under a different lens than we are, right? The lens that you guys look at is the game as it is in front of them right now.
Right, for sure, which
Right.
is usually at least time delayed by a couple months.
Right, and so we're all 6 months ahead of them because
Right.
we've been working on 110 for some time now, and our lens is different. So in a lot of cases, when you guys bring up concerns, those things don't even exist in the new version.
Yeah, for
right.
sure.
So a lot of times that happens. So our lenses are slightly different, and again, we're now trying to also reveal some of this stuff as a bigger marketing push.
Right, for sure.
Right.
Arcade99 asks, are we going to see other mob types like giants, bugbears, and wyverns before launch?
We do have a handful of other mobs that are in the pipe somewhere and that have not made it all the way through the pipe. I will say that we're going to be not nearly as many monsters as other traditional PvE MMOs, but we do have a handful of additional ones.
Again,
that are
our
coming
focus has
that are
always
working their way through the pipe.
Our focus has been the PvE for a long time, right? So again, adding the PvE stuff in was just, we knew we had to do it, right? How much we get done.
Yep.
When are we going to get water back?
I don't know if we will ever have water Yeah, this is an ongoing long-term joke, because people know that water triggers me. I hate water. Yeah, when I mean, it's fine if I'm playing a game. I'm totally fine with somebody else doing the work for water. When I'm making a game, the payoff that you get, the amount of pain and resource required to put water in your game versus what you get, which is, I'm like doggy paddling across a lake now. It's like my least favorite thing to work on. And so that was actually to see if we can trigger a Todd question, and it worked. So eventually we should get water in. But yeah, I will actually engineer the world to be like, look, it's all these floating rock clusters. Why? Because I don't like oceans. Like, I'll engineer the entire backstory of the world around water. Everything is frozen. It's coming to winter and everything is frozen. Why? Because I don't like water. So I'll actually go out of my way to avoid it if at all
Well, Mark
possible.
wants you to know that dry lakes make Jesus sad.
Oh, man, goodness. Okay, noted.
That's where all the leather motherlode nodes are, though.
Yeah, that's right. That's where the mass grave POI is. It's a motherlode node. So
they're all at the bottom of
you're going to get one or the other. Sorry.
Which would you rather have?
Yeah. So no, I will. At some point, I'm sure it will work its way onto the list. I think that we actually in Wizard, it was like probably 8 or 9 years after launch when they finally put in fishing. Like, they had the concept of water that kind of came up to your ankles,
right?
But it had no purpose. And I think they put fishing in like, years later. So pretty funny. All right, what else we got, Miss Val?
That's it.
All right.
That it?
I think those are the big ones. I mean, I always want
Do
to
we
know
have a
about
list of-
Frostweaver.
Which is coming.
It's coming. There you go.
She is coming. So I will go back to what I said at the beginning, which is please also go and check out the kind of end of the year wrap-up post, the Founders Update that we put up today on the website. I don't know that I've done an adequate job of thanking you guys on this stream, so I'll do that here in case you don't read it. But you guys have been awesome supporting us this whole time. When we set out at the beginning of this thing, we set out with a pretty crazy, unique vision for a universe where the characters could move between worlds and every world was unique and the rules could be different, and you had to move items in and out of them with exports, and it was going to have territorial conquest and building of cities and sieging of cities and caravans, and most of that stuff is either already playable or it's in this next version. So it's really remarkable when I lined up all the things that we said we wanted to do, how close we are. So that's largely thanks to you guys. I mean, the team obviously worked their asses off, so I guess I should give you guys a little bit of credit, but I'm going to give most of the credit to our community, because really, without them, y'all wouldn't have jobs and you wouldn't be able to do it, and I don't think I could get you to do it volunteer work. So I just want to say thank you guys very much for a great 2019. I'm super jazzed about next year, because you'll start to see us very much pull ahead of kind of all the other noise and all the other stuff that's going out there, because we're getting closer and closer. And I think that's going to be very, very apparent, especially with the launch of 110. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to 110. Again, I love these big shifts of the entire environment. It's just all the new toys, and it's like all the stuff that we've been working on all the late nights of just fun stuff that we put in for everyone to discover.
Yeah, absolutely.
I always look forward to that.